She's been running for 7 days. The baby in her arms hasn't cried since yesterday. That should worry her more than it does, but right now, she has bigger problems. The hunting party is 3 miles behind her and closing fast. Her own pack, her own blood, and they have orders to kill them both. What they don't know, what nobody knows, is that the child she's carrying isn't just any baby. This child is the reason 3 kingdoms are about to go to war. And her? She's the fool who saved it. 7 days ago, she was one of them, a loyal tracker, a trusted wolf. Now she's a traitor with a death sentence and a glowing baby who won't stop staring at the moon with eyes that burn like molten gold. Her name is Kelly Villanueva, and this is how she lost everything to save the one thing that mattered.
No, stay back! You can't have him! I won't let!
Chapter 1. The Hunt. The ravine was smaller than Kelly remembered. She pressed herself against the cold stone wall, one arm wrapped tight around the baby, and the other clutching her bleeding side. The wound wasn't deep, but it was persistent. Blood had soaked through her makeshift bandage an hour ago and showed no signs of stopping. The baby, she still didn't have a name for her, lay perfectly still against her chest. Too still. Babies weren't supposed to be this quiet, especially not after a week in the wilderness with minimal food and temperatures that should have killed them both 3 times over. But this baby wasn't normal. Kelly had known that from the moment she'd found her in the Forbidden Zone, wrapped in cloth that shimmered like starlight and marked with symbols that made her head ache just looking at them. She'd known it when the baby had stopped crying the instant Kelly picked her up, as though she'd been waiting for her specifically. And she definitely knew it now, watching the infant's eyes track the sliver of moon visible through the ravine opening, glowing faint gold in the darkness. "You're going to get us killed," Kelly whispered, adjusting her grip. "You know that, right?" The baby blinked once, slowly, and returned her gaze to the moon. Kelly pressed her forehead against the stone and tried to steady her breathing. The hunters were close. She could smell them on the wind, familiar scents that made her chest ache. Doreen, who'd taught her to track when she was barely old enough to shift. Salvador, who'd shared his kills during the lean winters. Ellen, and her former best friend, who'd held her after her first heartbreak. All of them, hunting her now. She heard the footsteps before she saw the torchlight. Multiple sets, moving in perfect formation. They'd split into 3 groups, one following her scent trail directly, 2 flanking wide to cut off escape routes. It was exactly what she would have done. She'd taught them too well. "Kelly!" Ellen's voice echoed off the ravine walls, sharp and commanding. "We know you're here, so your blood trail leads right to this ravine." Kelly said nothing. Her hand moved to the knife at her belt. "You can't run forever," Ellen continued. Her footsteps were closer now, maybe 30 feet away. "You're injured, you're exhausted, and you're carrying a baby through winter. This ends one way." The baby's fingers curled around a strand of Kelly's dark hair. The movement was gentle, almost curious. "Give us the child," Ellen said, her voice softer now. "Kelly, please." You don't understand what you've done." "Then explain it to me." Kelly's voice came out rougher than she intended. She hadn't spoken to another person in 7 days. A pause. Then Ellen stepped into view at the ravine entrance, torch held high. The firelight caught her face, sharp features, amber eyes, the scar across her left cheekbone from a hunt gone wrong 2 years ago. She looked exactly the same. She looked like a stranger. "That baby is a weapon," Ellen said carefully. "It will destroy us all." "You're lying." "Am I?" Ellen took another step forward. "Then why did you hide it in the first place?" Kelly's blood went cold. "What?" 6 months ago, Kelly, before you got sick, before the healer had to treat you for those fever dreams. Ellen's eyes were steady, unwavering. "You were the one who hid that baby in the Forbidden Zone. You cast the blood spell. You made it so only you could find it again." "That's not—" Kelly stopped. The words felt wrong in her mouth because somewhere, deep in the parts of her mind that felt like static and shadow, something stirred. A fragment, a flash of memory that didn't quite fit. Her own hands, drawing symbols in blood on cave walls. A woman dying, pressing a baby into her arms. "Only you. It has to be you. You don't remember, do you?" Ellen's voice held something that might have been pity. "They wiped it clean, made you forget. But your blood didn't forget, Kelly. The spell called you back." The baby shifted against her chest. Kelly looked down and froze. The infant was glowing, not bright, just a faint golden luminescence that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Her eyes were fully open now, fixed on Ellen with an intensity that no baby should possess. "Holy gods," Ellen breathed. She took an involuntary step backward. "It's already manifesting, Kelly. You have to give her to me, now." "No. She's not human. She's not even fully wolf. That thing is—" "She's a baby." Kelly's voice was steel. "And you're not touching her." Ellen's hand moved to the weapon at her side. Not a knife, something longer, a tranquilizer gun. "Don't make me do this." "You won't." Kelly shifted her weight, calculating. The ravine was a dead end behind her. The only way out was through Ellen and whoever else waited in the darkness beyond the torchlight. "You need me alive. That's why you brought the tranq gun instead of silver bullets." "We need the baby alive," Ellen corrected. "You're optional." The baby's glow intensified, and then she did something impossible. She turned her head toward Ellen and screamed. It wasn't a baby's cry. It was something primal and terrible, a sound that resonated in the bones and made every wolf instinct in Kelly's body scream danger, threat, run. The ravine walls amplified it, turning it into a weapon. Ellen stumbled backward, and hands flying to her ears. The torch fell from her grip and extinguished in the snow. The baby's eyes blazed gold, and Ellen flew backward. Not fell, flew. She hit the ravine wall 10 feet away with a sickening crack and crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Kelly stared at the baby in her arms. The infant had stopped glowing. Her eyes were normal again, or as normal as they ever got. She looked up at Kelly with an expression that seemed almost expectant. "What are you?" Kelly whispered. The baby's tiny hand patted her chest right over her heart. Shouts erupted from the darkness. More torches, more footsteps, running now. Kelly looked at Ellen's unconscious form, then at the ravine opening where at least a dozen wolves were about to appear. Then she looked behind her, at the sheer stone wall that rose 40 feet to the ravine's edge. And beyond that, the sound of rushing water, the Blackwater River swollen with snowmelt and running fast enough to kill. "Well, you've got to be kidding me," she muttered. The baby grabbed her hair again and pulled, hard. Yeah, I know." Kelly wrapped both arms around the infant and pressed her tight against her chest. "Hold on, little one. This is going to be really, really stupid." She ran, not toward the ravine entrance, but up, hitting the wall at a full sprint and letting her wolf strength carry her vertical. Her fingers found cracks, ledges, anything that could hold weight. The wound in her side screamed protest. Blood ran hot down her ribs. Behind her, wolves poured into the ravine. "There! She's climbing! Shoot her! Shoot her now!" The first tranquilizer dart hit the stone inches from her hand. The second grazed her shoulder. Kelly hauled herself up another 5 feet, then 10. The baby was perfectly silent, perfectly still. Her eyes tracked the moon above them, calm and focused, yet as though being carried up a cliff face in the middle of a chase was just another day. Kelly's hand found the ravine edge. She pulled herself up and over, rolling onto flat ground. The river was close. She could hear it, a roar of white water and breaking ice. She didn't let herself think. Thinking would mean stopping. Stopping would mean dying. She ran for the river's edge and jumped. The cold hit like a fist. Everything went white, then black, and then white again as the current grabbed them and pulled them under. Kelly kicked hard, fighting toward the surface. The baby clutched so tight against her chest, she could feel the small heartbeat against her own. "Don't let go. Whatever happens, don't let go." Her head broke the surface. She gasped, inhaled water, coughed it out. The river was carrying them fast, the current vicious and unforgiving. Rocks loomed in the darkness. Kelly twisted, took a glancing blow to her shoulder. It kept her grip on this baby. The infant's eyes were still glowing, faint gold in the darkness. and impossibly, the water around them was warm. Not hot, just warm enough to keep them from freezing, a bubble of heat that moved with them, centered on the baby's small form. "You're keeping us alive," Kelly realized, her voice lost in the roar of water. "You're actually keeping us alive." The baby's eyes found hers, and for just a moment, Kelly could have sworn the infant smiled. And then the river pulled them around a bend, and the world went dark. Chapter 2. The Calling. 7 days ago, Kelly wasn't supposed to be in the Forbidden Zone, but the dreams had been getting worse. Every night for 3 weeks, a baby crying, a golden light pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat, and a voice, soft, desperate, familiar in a way that made no sense, whispering her name. "Kelly, come find me. Kelly." Nobody else heard it. She'd asked, casually at first, then with increasing urgency. Had anyone else been having strange dreams? Hearing voices? Seeing lights that shouldn't exist? They'd looked at her with concern, with pity. Ellen had suggested she see the healer. Again. That was the other thing. According to everyone in the pack, Kelly had been sick 6 months ago, dangerously sick. Fever dreams, hallucinations, violent seizures that required 3 wolves to hold her down. The pack healer, Bonnie Dickerson, had treated her for weeks. Kelly didn't remember any of it. She remembered the month before, a successful hunt, at the chief's praise, Ellen's birthday celebration where they'd drunk too much and sang off key until dawn. And she remembered waking up 2 months later in the healer's quarters, weak and confused, with Bonnie standing over her, wearing an expression that seemed more relieved than caring. "You're lucky to be alive," Bonnie had said, pressing a cup of bitter tea into her hands. "Drink this. It'll help with the lingering effects." Kelly had drunk it. And the next few weeks had passed in a haze of exhaustion and fractured sleep, until finally her strength returned and life went back to normal. Except it hadn't. Not really. Because 3 weeks ago, she'd found the stone. It was obsidian, perfectly smooth, the size of her palm. She'd discovered it tucked into the corner of her sleeping quarters, hidden beneath a loose floorboard she'd never noticed before, and carved into its surface, in handwriting she recognized because it was hers. At were 2 words, Forbidden Zone. Beneath that, coordinates. And beneath that, her own name, written 3 times, as though whoever carved it, as though she had carved it, needed to be absolutely certain. That night, the dreams had started. Now, standing at the edge of the Forbidden Zone with dawn breaking gray and cold over the mountains, Kelly wondered if she'd finally lost her mind entirely. The Forbidden Zone wasn't forbidden because of danger, though there was plenty of that, as it was forbidden because of the magic. Old magic, the kind that predated pacts and territories, and the careful political boundaries that kept the wolf kingdoms from tearing each other apart. The kind that could do things to a person's mind, their soul. The kind that, once you entered, might not let you leave. "This is insane," Kelly muttered, checking her supplies one more time. Rope, knife, emergency flares, water, enough for a quick in and out. Completely insane." The voice in her dreams whispered her name again, faint but insistent. Kelly closed her eyes. Then she stepped across the boundary. The change was immediate. The air felt different, thicker, charged with something she couldn't name. The trees were wrong, their branches twisted into patterns that hurt to look at directly. And the silence was absolute. No birds, no wind, nothing but her own breathing and the rapid thud of her heart. She pulled out the obsidian stone and checked the coordinates again. North by northeast, approximately 2 miles. There was supposed to be a cave system, ancient and largely unmapped. She started walking. The trees seemed to lean toward her as she passed, though she never saw them move. Shadows pooled in places they shouldn't. Twice, she heard footsteps behind her and spun to find nothing there. Just the magic, she told herself. Playing tricks, keep moving. After an hour, she found the cave. And it was smaller than she'd expected, the entrance barely wide enough for a wolf to squeeze through. But carved above it, in the same script as the stone, was a single word, sanctuary. Kelly's hands were shaking. She didn't know why. She pulled out her flashlight and ducked inside. The cave opened into a larger chamber almost immediately, and covering every surface, walls, floor, ceiling, were symbols. Hundreds of them, thousands, drawn in something dark that might have been ash or might have been blood. They pulsed faintly in the flashlight beam, responding to her presence. In the center of the chamber, on a raised stone platform, was a bundle wrapped in cloth that shimmered like starlight. The bundle was moving. Kelly approached slowly, her wolf senses screaming contradictory warnings. Danger, safety, threat, home. Her hand went to her knife, though she didn't draw it. When she reached the platform, she could hear the sound clearly now. A baby, crying. She unwrapped the cloth with trembling fingers. The infant inside was tiny, maybe a few weeks old. Dark hair, skin pale from cold, eyes squeezed shut with the effort of crying. She wore a simple white gown, and on her chest, visible through the thin fabric, was a birthmark in the shape of a crescent moon. The moment Kelly's fingers touched the baby's skin, the crying stopped. The infant's eyes opened. They were gold, not hazel, and not amber, gold, bright and burning and impossibly aware. And Kelly knew her. She didn't know how. She didn't know why. But looking into those eyes, she felt recognition slam into her chest like a physical blow. This baby knew her too, had been waiting for her, had called her here. "Who are you?" Kelly whispered. The baby's tiny hand reached up and wrapped around her finger. The touch sent warmth flooding through Kelly's body, pushing back the cold, the fear, the confusion. And with the warmth came a flash, just a fragment, of something that felt like memory but couldn't be. A woman with kind eyes and royal bearing pressing this same baby into Kelly's arms. "Please, she has to live. No matter what happens to me, she has to live. Promise me." "I promise." Kelly gasped and stumbled backward. The baby started crying again immediately, a sound of pure distress that made every protective instinct Kelly had roar to life. Okay, I've got you." She scooped the infant up, and the crying stopped again. The baby nestled against her chest, as though she belonged there, as though this was exactly where she was meant to be. Kelly looked around the cave, at the symbols covering every surface, and finally understood what she was seeing. This wasn't just a hiding place. It was a prison, a cage made of magic, designed to keep something in, or someone out. And carved into the platform where the baby had lain, out in letters large enough to read even in the dim flashlight beam, was a message. Kelly Villanueva, bloodbound guardian. When the magic calls, you must answer, protect the heir, trust. No one. "What the hell did I do?" Kelly breathed. The baby made a soft cooing sound and grabbed a strand of her hair. Behind her, from the cave entrance, came the sound of footsteps. Multiple sets, moving fast. Kelly spun, the baby clutched against her chest, and saw torchlight flickering in the tunnel. As voices echoed off the stone walls, familiar voices, pack voices. They'd followed her. "Kelly?" That was Salvador Blevins, the pack's second in command. "Kelly, are you in there?" She looked down at the baby, then at the symbols covering the walls, then at the message carved in stone. Trust no one. "Yeah," she called back, her mind racing. "I'm here. I got lost, following a deer trail." "A deer trail?" Salvador's voice was flat. "Into the forbidden zone." It was stupid. I know." The footsteps were closer now. She could see shadows moving in the tunnel. The baby's eyes were glowing again, faint gold in the darkness. She was staring at the tunnel entrance with an expression that seemed almost afraid. Kelly made a decision. She wrapped the baby tight in the shimmering cloth and tucked her inside her jacket, praying the infant would stay quiet. And then she kicked loose rocks over the carved message on the platform and positioned herself between it and the tunnel entrance. Salvador emerged first, followed by 3 other wolves she recognized. His eyes swept the chamber, taking in the symbols, the platform, Kelly's defensive posture. "What is this place?" he asked slowly. "I don't know. Old magic, I think. I didn't touch anything." His gaze lingered on her jacket, which was now noticeably bulkier than it should be. Kelly, what's inside your coat? Nothing. Show me. Salvador? That's an order. His voice hardened. From the chief. Show me what you're hiding, or I'll have them hold you down and check myself. The baby shifted against her chest. Kelly felt the small heartbeat, rapid and trusting. Protect the heir. She met Salvador's eyes. No. Excuse me? I said no. Kelly's hand moved to her knife. I'm leaving. Don't try to stop me. Salvador's expression shifted from confusion to something colder. You found it. The chief said you might, if the spell worked. He said your blood would lead you right to it. Kelly's stomach dropped. What? The heir. The Alpha King's brat. Salvador took a step forward, and the other wolves fanned out, surrounding her. Did you really think we didn't know? We've been watching you for weeks, waiting for the magic to call you here. You did exactly what we needed you to do. You used me. The words came out hollow. You, Bonnie. The sickness. She did something to me. Wiped your memory clean. Had to. You were too loyal back then, too soft. You never would have helped us willingly. Salvador smiled, and it was the cruelest thing Kelly had ever seen. But blood magic doesn't care about loyalty. It only cares about blood, and yours is tied to that baby whether you remember why or not. The baby whimpered against her chest. Hand it over, Kelly. The chief has a buyer, someone who'll pay very well for the true heir. And then we'll finally have the resources to take what we deserve. Kelly's mind was racing. Memory wipe. Blood magic. A buyer for the heir. None of this was random. This was a conspiracy. Her entire pack had betrayed her, had used her, and she'd been too blind to see it. Who's the buyer? She asked, stalling. Does it matter? Some southern lord with ambitions above his station. He'll kill the brat and install his own puppet king. We get paid. Everyone wins. Salvador held out his hand. Except you, if you don't give me that baby right now. Kelly looked at the 4 wolves surrounding her, all stronger than her, all fresh, while she was already exhausted from the hike. Fighting her way out was impossible, but staying was death, for her and the baby both. I have a counter-proposal, Kelly said quietly. Oh? You let us go, and I don't tell the Alpha King that his heir is alive and you're the ones who tried to sell her. Salvador laughed. The Alpha King is in a magical coma. And Kelly has been for 6 months. He's not waking up to avenge anyone. Then I'll tell his brother, the prince. Pretty sure he'd be interested to know where his niece has been hiding. The laughter died. Salvador's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. You don't even know who the baby is. Don't I? Kelly pulled the cloth aside just enough to show the crescent moon birthmark. Royal mark. Alpha King's bloodline. I may not remember everything, but I remember enough. That was a lie. She didn't remember anything, but Salvador didn't need to know that. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Salvador's hand dropped to his weapon. Take her. Kelly ran. She hit the tunnel at full speed, the baby pressed tight against her chest. Behind her, wolves crashed into motion. She burst out of the cave entrance into gray morning light and kept running, calling on every ounce of speed and endurance she had. The Forbidden Zone's magic twisted around her, making the paths shift and change. But somehow, impossibly, she knew which way to go. Her feet found the right trails without her having to think about it, as though something in her blood remembered even when her mind didn't. She ran for an hour before she stopped, gasping, in a clearing she didn't recognize. The baby was looking up at her with those golden eyes, calm and trusting. I don't know what I did, Kelly told her, her voice shaking. I don't know who you are or why I hid you or what the hell I was thinking. But I'm not giving you to them, you understand? Whatever happens, I'm not letting them have you. The baby's hand found hers and squeezed, and in that moment, Kelly made a choice. Not because she remembered making a promise, not because she understood what was happening, but because looking at this tiny, helpless, impossibly magical child, she knew she would rather die than hand her over to wolves who saw her as nothing more than a commodity. She pulled out her knife and cut her palm, letting blood well up dark and red. Then she pressed her hand against the cave symbols she'd noticed carved into a nearby tree, the same symbols from the sanctuary. "I don't know if you can hear me," she said to whatever magic had brought her here, "but I need help. I need to protect her, and I need to know what the hell is going on." The blood on the tree began to glow, and in her mind, clear as a bell, she heard a woman's voice, the same voice from the memory fragment. "You made a promise." Kelly Villanueva. Blood never forgets. Now run. Run and don't look back, and when the time comes, trust the wolf with golden eyes. He will find you, and he will help you understand. Kelly stared at the glowing symbols. "What wolf? What do you—" Howls erupted in the distance. The hunting party had found her trail. "Right. Questions later. Running now." She tucked the baby back inside her jacket and took off into the trees. That had been 7 days ago. 7 days of running, of hiding, and of slowly realizing that everyone she'd trusted had been lying to her for months, and she couldn't trust anyone in her pack ever again. 7 days of watching this baby do impossible things, glow in the dark, stay warm in freezing temperatures, project feelings of calm and safety that kept Kelly going even when her body screamed to stop. 7 days of being hunted by the people she'd once called family, and now, lying in the river's current with the baby's warmth keeping them alive, Kelly finally understood. She wasn't just running from her pack, she was running to something, someone. The wolf with golden eyes, whoever that was out there, looking for them. And when he found them, everything would change. She just had to survive long enough to meet him. The river carried them into darkness, and Kelly held on tight. Chapter 3. The River's Edge. Kelly woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that meant her body had shut down everything non-essential to keep her alive. She was cold, truly cold, in a way that went deeper than skin and muscle. Her limbs felt distant, disconnected. Moving seemed like a theoretical concept rather than something she could actually do. But the baby was warm against her chest. That thought cut through the fog. Kelly forced her eyes open. She was on a riverbank, and half in the water, half on frozen mud. Gray dawn light filtered through skeletal trees. Her clothes were soaked through, already stiffening with ice. The wound in her side had stopped bleeding, but only because the cold had slowed her circulation to a crawl. She should be dead. They both should be dead. The baby stirred, made a soft sound, and blinked up at her with those impossible golden eyes. "Still alive," Kelly managed through chattering teeth. "That's something." She tried to sit up and nearly blacked out. Her vision swam, settled, swam again. Every part of her hurt in a way that suggested serious damage she didn't have the energy to assess. "Move. You have to move. They'll find you." But moving required strength she didn't have. She lay there, breathing, trying to convince her body that survival was still an option worth pursuing. That's when she smelled it. Smoke. Wood smoke. Recent and close. Someone had a fire burning, as maybe a quarter-mile upstream. Kelly's first instinct was to run, but she couldn't run, could barely crawl. And the baby needed warmth, needed food, needed things Kelly couldn't provide lying half dead on a frozen riverbank. She had no good options, only less terrible ones. She crawled. It took 20 minutes to cover 100 yards. Her vision kept graying out. Twice she had to stop and press her face against the frozen ground until the dizziness passed. But the baby stayed quiet, as tucked inside her jacket, radiating that impossible warmth that was probably the only reason Kelly's heart was still beating. The cabin appeared through the trees like a hallucination. Small, rough timber, smoke rising from a stone chimney. A hunting cabin, probably, or a trapper's shelter. The kind of place people used when they wanted to be far from civilization. Kelly collapsed against the door and knocked. Once, twice. On the third knock, and her strength gave out entirely, and she slumped against the frame. The door opened. A woman stood there, maybe 50, with iron gray hair and sharp eyes that took in Kelly's condition in one sweeping glance. She wore simple clothes, wool and leather, practical and worn, but there was something in the way she held herself that spoke of authority, of power carefully contained. "Holy gods," the woman breathed. "You're half frozen." "Please," Kelly managed. "The baby, she needs inside." "And now," the woman grabbed Kelly's arm and hauled her across the threshold with surprising strength. "Can you stand?" "No." "Then sit." She guided Kelly to a chair near the fire and immediately began stripping off her wet outer layers. "How long were you in the river?" "Don't know. Hours, maybe." The woman's hands stilled. "You should be dead." "Yeah, I'm aware." The baby chose that moment to make herself known, squirming inside Kelly's jacket with a small sound of protest. The woman's eyes went wide. "You have a child with you?" Kelly unwrapped the baby carefully. The infant was dry somehow, warm, her golden eyes bright and alert. She looked completely unbothered by their near-death experience. "She kept us warm," Kelly said quietly. "In the water. I don't know how, but she did." The woman stared at the baby for a long moment. Then her gaze shifted to the crescent moon birthmark visible on the infant's chest, and her face went very still. What's your name?" the woman asked, her voice suddenly careful. "Kelly?" "Kelly what?" "Villanueva. Why?" The woman sat back on her heels. "And you don't know who this baby is?" "I know enough." Kelly's hand moved protectively over the infant. "And before you get any ideas, I'm not giving her up. Even if I told you that baby is worth more than both our lives combined?" "Especially then." A silence stretched between them. Then the woman smiled. A quick and sharp expression that reminded Kelly of a wolf sizing up prey. "My name is Catherine Keenan," she said, "and you, Kelly Villanueva, have wandered into the one cabin for 100 miles that might actually be able to help you." She stood and moved to a cabinet, pulling out blankets and medical supplies. "Because I know exactly who that baby is, and I know why you're running." Kelly's hand went to her knife. "How?" "I was a royal midwife. 20 years in service to the crown." Catherine began laying out bandages and salves with practiced efficiency. "I delivered half the noble children in 3 kingdoms, including the Alpha King's late wife when she was born." Her eyes found the baby again. "And I was supposed to deliver her 6 months ago, except the queen never made it to the birthing chamber." "She was killed," Kelly said quietly. "Murdered, along with the child she was carrying. Or so everyone was told." Catherine knelt beside Kelly and began examining the wound in her side. "But you're telling me that's not true, because you're sitting in my cabin with a baby who has the royal birthmark and golden eyes that haven't been seen in the bloodline for 3 generations. The baby reached for Catherine's finger and held on. "She's the heir," Kelly said. It wasn't a question. "If she's who I think she is, she's more than the heir. She's the true heir. The Alpha King's daughter." Catherine's hands were gentle as she cleaned the wound, which means someone went to great lengths to make everyone think she died with her mother. "My pack," Kelly said bitterly. "They were hired to find her and kill her, except I found her first, and apparently past me decided to hide her instead." She winced as Catherine applied something that burned. Then they wiped my memory and waited for the magic to call me back so they could use me to find her again. Catherine paused. "Blood magic. That's what they said. Only a royal guardian can be bound with blood magic." Catherine's eyes were sharp, assessing. "Which means somewhere in your bloodline, you have royal heritage. Distant, probably, but enough for the spell to work." Kelly laughed, though it came out more like a cough. "I'm nobody, an orphan raised by the pack. And I don't have heritage, royal or otherwise." "Every wolf has heritage. Some of us just don't know what it is." Catherine finished bandaging the wound and sat back. "That gash needed stitches yesterday. It's infected. You're running a fever, and you've lost enough blood that you should be unconscious." She looked at the baby, then back at Kelly. "But you're not, because she won't let you be." "What?" "Look at her. Really look." Kelly looked down. The baby was glowing again, as that faint golden light pulsing in time with her heartbeat. And where the infant's hand rested against Kelly's chest, she could feel warmth spreading. Not just heat, but something deeper. Something that was pushing back the fever, the infection, the bone-deep exhaustion. "She's healing me," Kelly breathed. "She's keeping you alive," Catherine corrected. "Because she's bonded to you. And if you die, she knows she'll die too." The older woman stood and moved to the fire, adding wood. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "What do you mean?" "You can't run forever. Your pack is hunting you, and if they're working for who I think they're working for, they have resources you can't imagine. Money, magic, political connections." Catherine turned to face her. "You need allies, Kelly. Real ones." "I don't have allies. Everyone I trusted betrayed me." "Not everyone." Catherine crossed to a trunk in the corner and pulled out a piece of parchment, already written on. 3 days ago a messenger came through. Royal courier, traveling fast. He was spreading word that the Alpha King's brother, Prince Clayton Mendez, is searching for his niece, the one everyone thinks is dead." Kelly's heart stuttered. "The prince knows she's alive?" "He suspects, and he's offering protection and a substantial reward for anyone who can bring her to him safely." Catherine held out the parchment. "There's a meeting point, neutral territory. 3 days travel north." Kelly stared at the paper, but didn't take it. "How do I know it's not a trap?" "You don't, but consider your alternatives." Catherine's voice was blunt. "You're injured, exhausted, and being hunted by wolves who know these territories better than you do. You have a baby who can't survive on her own, and powers she doesn't understand. How long do you think you can keep this up?" "As long as I have to. Noble, stupid, but noble." Catherine set the parchment on the table. "Prince Clayton was a good man when I knew him. Fair, just. He loved his brother's wife like a sister. If anyone will protect that baby, it's him." The baby made a sound. Not crying, just a small vocalization that somehow conveyed opinion. Kelly looked down at her. "What do you think, little one? Trust the prince?" The infant's eyes were on the parchment. Her tiny hand reached toward it. "That's not an answer," Kelly muttered. But something in her chest eased slightly. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the fever. Or maybe it was the desperate hope that somewhere out there, someone existed who could be trusted. "I'll think about it," she told Catherine. "Don't think too long. Your pack will find this cabin eventually." Catherine moved to the window and peered out. "I can give you supplies, food, medicine, warm clothes, but you can't stay here." "I know." They spent the next hour in relative silence, and Catherine prepared a pack while Kelly fed the baby, or tried to. The infant seemed to need less food than she should, as though the magic sustaining her also sustained her physical needs. It was unnerving. Kelly was pulling on dry clothes when the first howl echoed through the trees. She froze. Catherine's head snapped toward the window. "They're close," the older woman said quietly. "How many?" "Can't tell yet." But if they tracked you here, they'll burn this cabin down with you in it." Kelly grabbed the pack and scooped up the baby. "I have to go. Now." "Wait." Catherine crossed to a shelf and pulled down a small pouch. "Wolfsbane. Not enough to kill, but enough to slow them down if you need it. Burn it. The smoke will make them sluggish, confused." "Why are you helping me?" Catherine's expression softened. "Because 20 years ago, as I held that baby's mother in my arms and promised I'd look after her children, I failed once. I won't fail again." She pressed the pouch into Kelly's hand. "Go north, find the prince, and keep that little one safe." Another howl, closer now. Kelly moved to the back door, then hesitated. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just survive." Catherine was already moving toward the front of the cabin, toward whatever confrontation was coming. "Now go," Kelly went. She slipped out the back and into the trees, moving as fast as her injured body would allow. Behind her, she heard voices at the cabin. Catherine's calm greeting. Salvador's demanding questions. Then she was far enough away that the sounds faded, swallowed by forest and distance. The baby nestled against her chest, warm and quiet. Kelly pulled out the parchment Catherine had given her and studied it in the fading light. A map, coordinates, his and a symbol she recognized, a crescent moon crossed with a sword. The royal crest. North, she muttered. 3 days. To meet a prince I've never seen and trust him with both our lives. The baby's hand found hers. Yeah, I know. Not much choice. Kelly tucked the map away and started walking. But if this prince betrays us, I'm haunting everyone involved. You hear me? Everyone. The baby made a sound that might have been agreement, and somewhere in the distance, wolves howled. If you're angry that Kelly's own pack erased her memories and hunted her like an animal, please like this video and subscribe. Thank you. Chapter 4. The Bloodbound Pact. 6 months ago, the mission briefing had been short and direct. There's been a breach, Chief Ramon Schwartz had said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Royal intelligence suggests the Alpha King's heir has been taken, kidnapped by rogue wolves operating out of the southern territories. Kelly had stood at attention with the rest of the elite trackers, listening intently. Missions involving royalty were rare. Missions involving the heir to the throne were unprecedented. The Queen went into labor 3 days ago, Ramon continued. She was being transported to the royal birthing chamber when her convoy was attacked. Most of the guards were killed. The Queen and her unborn child were taken. A murmur ran through the assembled wolves. Ellen, standing beside Kelly, had gone pale. Our sources indicate the rogues are moving her toward the Forbidden Zone, Ramon said. And they believe the old magic there will hide their scent. They're wrong. His eyes swept the room. You are the best trackers in 5 territories. The Alpha King himself has requested our assistance. Find his mate, find his child, bring them home. It should have been an honor, a chance to serve the crown, to prove the Pact's worth on the largest possible stage. Kelly had felt sick, not because of the danger, she'd faced worse, but because of the way Ramon's eyes had lingered on her when he'd said, Forbidden Zone. The way Bonnie, standing in the shadows at the back of the room, had smiled. She'd ignored it, told herself she was being paranoid. The team had departed within the hour. Kelly, Ellen, Salvador, and 3 others. They'd tracked the rogues for 2 days, following a trail that seemed almost too easy to find. Blood on leaves, broken branches, the occasional piece of torn cloth. This feels wrong, Ellen had muttered on the second night, crouched beside Kelly at their camp. Professional kidnappers don't leave trails like this. Maybe they're panicking, Kelly had suggested. Pregnant queen, half the kingdom hunting them. People make mistakes under pressure. But Ellen's instincts had been right. They'd found the rogues on the 3rd day, camped in a ravine just outside the Forbidden Zone. 5 wolves, heavily armed, and in the center of their camp, a woman. And not the queen. The woman was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes and healer's hands. She wore royal livery, a midwife's robes marked with the crescent moon crest. And she was holding a bundle wrapped in white cloth. Hold, Salvador had ordered, raising his hand. The team had stopped, concealed in the brush above the ravine. Kelly had watched as the rogues argued among themselves. One of them, a large male with a scarred face, kept pointing at the bundle, pointing at the Forbidden Zone. His voice carried up to where they waited. Told us to kill them both. Take the bodies back as proof. That's a baby, another rogue had protested. An infant. I didn't sign on for... You signed on for the gold, and you get the gold when the job's done. Scarface had drawn his knife. Now hold her still. The midwife had pulled the bundle closer, her voice rising in desperate plea. Please, she's innocent. She's just a baby, please. Kelly hadn't thought. She'd moved. She'd hit the ravine at a full sprint, shifted mid-leap, and landed on Scarface with enough force to break bone. The other rogues had scattered, shouting. Salvador had cursed and followed her down with the rest of the team. The fight had been brief and brutal. The rogues were mercenaries, not warriors. Within minutes, 4 were dead and 1 was running. Kelly had shifted back to human and run to the midwife. The woman was on the ground, clutching the bundle. blood seeping from a wound in her side. "Please," the woman had gasped. Don't let them take her." "We're not going to hurt you," Kelly had said, kneeling beside her. "We're here to rescue you. The Alpha King sent us." The woman's eyes had focused on her face, and something in her expression had shifted. Not relief, recognition. "No," she'd whispered. "Not rescue. They sent you to finish what the rogues started." "What? No, we're—" "Your chief," the woman had interrupted, blood on her lips. "Ramon Schwartz. He made a deal with Lord Guillermo Drew. Kill the heir. Install Drew's nephew on the throne, split the kingdom's southern territories between them." Kelly had felt the ground drop away beneath her. "That's treason. That's politics." The woman had coughed, red and wet. "The Queen knew. She knew someone in the court had turned. That's why she fled. Why she hired me to help her birth the child in secret." The midwife's hands had trembled. "But they found us." "Killed the Queen? Would have killed the baby too, but I ran." "The Queen is dead?" Ellen's voice from behind Kelly, shocked, horrified. 3 days ago. The midwife's breathing was labored. "Drew's men killed her and made it look like the rogues did it. Then they hired these mercenaries to finish the job." Her eyes had found Kelly's again. "Your chief sent you here to make sure there were no witnesses, no loose ends." Kelly had looked at Salvador. He'd been standing 10 feet away, at his expression carefully blank. "Salvador," she'd said slowly, "tell me she's wrong." He'd said nothing. "Tell me we didn't just kill these rogues to cover up a royal assassination." "Kelly, tell me!" Salvador's mask had cracked. "The chief has his reasons. The Alpha King is weak. His policies have made us vulnerable. Drew will be a better ruler, stronger, and our pack will finally have the recognition we deserve." Ellen had made a sound like she'd been punched, as Kelly had looked down at the dying woman, at the bundle in her arms, and felt something fundamental crack inside her chest. "There's a baby in that cloth," she'd said quietly. "I know. And you're going to kill it. It's not personal, Kelly. It's strategy." Kelly's hand had moved to her knife. "Like hell it is." The standoff had lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then Salvador had lunged. Kelly had been faster. She'd grabbed the bundle from the midwife's arms and rolled, coming up in a defensive crouch between Salvador and the woman. "Don't do this," Salvador had warned. "You're outnumbered, outmatched. Hand over the baby and we'll say the midwife killed it before we could stop her. You walk away clean. And if I don't, then you die here with her." Kelly had looked at Ellen, desperate for an ally. Her best friend had been pale, shaking, but when their eyes met, Ellen had slowly drawn her weapon against Salvador. "I didn't sign up for child murder," Ellen had said, her voice hard. "Whatever our chief promised you, it's not worth this." 2 of the other trackers had sided with Salvador. One had stayed neutral, hands raised, clearly wanting no part of the fight. "Last chance," Salvador had said. Kelly had unwrapped the cloth. The baby inside had been tiny, perfect, her eyes squeezed shut. On her chest, visible through her thin gown, was the crescent moon birthmark, the mark of the Alpha King's bloodline. And looking at her, Kelly had felt something she couldn't explain. A pull, a recognition that went deeper than thought or logic. This baby was hers to protect. The midwife had grabbed Kelly's arm, her grip surprisingly strong for someone dying. "Please," she'd gasped. "I don't know who you are, but the magic does. I can feel it." Her eyes had been fever bright. "You're packed to her, bloodbound. Promise me you'll protect her." "I don't understand." "Promise me!" "I promise," Kelly had said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. The midwife had smiled. "Then take my blood." She'd pressed her bleeding hand against Kelly's palm. "Speak the old words. Bind yourself to her. And no matter what they do to you, no matter what they take from you, the magic will remember." What old words? I don't know. But she had known. The words had risen from somewhere deep, somewhere ancient, as though they'd been waiting in her blood all along. By blood spilled and blood shared. I bind myself to this child. Her life is my purpose. Her safety is my oath. Until death or release, I am hers, and she is mine. The moment the words left her lips, power had erupted. It slammed through Kelly's body like lightning, burning along her veins, carving itself into her bones. The baby had gasped and opened her eyes, golden, burning gold, and the connection had snapped into place. Bloodbound, guardian, protector, forever. Salvador had attacked in that moment of distraction, but Kelly had been faster. Enhanced by the bond, by power she didn't understand, she'd fought with a strength and speed that shouldn't have been possible. She'd broken Salvador's arm, shattered another tracker's jaw, sent the third running. Ellen had grabbed her shoulder. "We have to go, now!" The midwife had pressed something into Kelly's hand, a piece of obsidian already carved with coordinates. "Hide her in the forbidden zone. The old magic will protect her. Only you can enter. Only you can find her again." Blood bubbled at her lips. "When the time is right, the magic will call you back. But go!" They'd run. Kelly, Ellen, and the baby racing through the forest with Salvador's furious howls echoing behind them. They'd reached the forbidden zone boundary by nightfall. "I can't cross with you," Ellen had said, her face anguished. "The magic, I'm not bloodbound. It won't let me pass." "Then go back. Tell them what? That I committed treason to save a baby?" Ellen had grabbed Kelly's shoulders. "Listen to me. Hide her. Do the spell. Then come back. Let them think you failed. Let them think she died." "They'll kill me." "No, they need you. The blood bond means you're the only one who can find her again if anything goes wrong." Ellen's eyes had been desperate. "Play along. Pretend to be loyal. And when the time is right, we'll figure out how to expose Ramon and save her properly." It had made a terrible kind of sense. Kelly had crossed into the forbidden zone, found the cave system, and spent 3 hours carving protective wards and binding spells she shouldn't have known how to create. The magic had guided her hands, whispering instructions in a language older than words. She'd placed the baby in the center of the sanctuary, wrapped in enchanted cloth. "I'll come back for you," she'd promised. I swear it." The baby's eyes had tracked her face, golden and aware. Then Kelly had carved the final ward, the one that would make her the only person who could enter the sanctuary. She'd cut her palm, pressed it to the stone, and spoken the sealing words. Power had exploded outward, and everything had gone white. She'd woken 3 days later in Bonnie's healing quarters, with no memory of anything after leaving on the mission. The chief had stood over her, his expression grave. "The mission failed," he'd told her. "The rogues killed the queen and the baby before you could reach them. You tracked them for days, but by the time you found them, it was too late." His hand had been heavy on her shoulder. "You did everything you could, Kelly. No one blames you." She'd believed him, had grieved for a queen and child she couldn't remember trying to save. For 6 months she'd lived with that false history, until the dream started, until her own blood magic had fought through Bonnie's memory spell and called her back to the Forbidden Zone, back to the promise she'd forgotten but never truly broken. Now, lying in the present with the baby warm against her chest and wolves hunting her through the forest, Kelly finally understood. She'd made a choice 6 months ago, a choice to protect an innocent child over pack loyalty, over her own safety. And somewhere deep in the parts of her that Bonnie's spell couldn't touch, and she'd known she'd make the same choice again. The blood remembered. Even when the mind forgot, the blood always remembered. Chapter 5. The Golden Wolf. The tavern appeared through the trees like a mirage. Kelly had been walking for 18 hours straight, pushing through exhaustion and pain with the single-minded focus of someone who knew stopping meant dying. The baby had been quiet the entire time, those golden eyes tracking the forest around them with an awareness that shouldn't exist in an infant. Now, as I staring at the weathered wooden building with smoke rising from its chimney and warm light spilling from its windows, Kelly felt something dangerous stir in her chest. Hope. She pushed it down. Hope got you killed. The tavern sat on neutral ground, a stretch of territory claimed by no pact, governed by no kingdom. It was the kind of place where wolves from different territories could meet without triggering political incidents, where information was traded as freely as coin. Hell, where questions weren't asked as long as your money was good. It was also the kind of place where a lone wolf with a baby could disappear quietly if the wrong people were asking. Kelly pulled her hood lower and approached the door. The moment she stepped inside, every conversation stopped. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward her. The air went thick with assessment, with wolves reading her scent, her posture, the way her hand hovered near her knife. She was injured, exhausted, and carrying something that made the baby-shaped bulge under her cloak obvious to anyone looking. A woman behind the bar, human by the scent, broke the silence. "We don't serve trouble here. Just passing through," Kelly said quietly. "Need supplies. Then I'm gone." The woman's eyes flicked to the bulge under Kelly's cloak, then back to her face. Supplies cost coin. Kelly pulled out the small pouch Catherine had given her and set it on the bar. "Will this cover it?" The woman opened the pouch, counted quickly, and nodded. "Food, medicine, what else?" "Information." Kelly kept her voice low. "I'm looking for someone. Royal courier, supposed to be spreading word about a meeting." The bartender's expression went carefully blank. "Don't know anything about that." "Right." Kelly started to turn away, then stopped. The baby had gone still against her chest. Not sleeping, but alert, watching something. And a man sat alone in the far corner of the tavern. He was massive, his shoulders broad enough that he made the chair look like child's furniture. Dark hair, gold eyes that caught the firelight, and a scar that ran from his left temple to his jaw. He wore simple traveling clothes, but there was something in the way he held himself that screamed authority. He was staring directly at her. "That corner table," the bartender murmured. "He's been here 3 days, waiting for something." Won't say what," she paused, "but he's been asking about a woman traveling alone with a baby." Kelly's hand moved to her knife. "He say why?" "Nope, just that it was urgent." The woman slid a bundle across the bar, bread, dried meat, a flask of something that smelled medicinal. "My advice? Take your supplies and leave. Whatever he wants, it's not worth getting involved." But the baby was squirming now, pushing against Kelly's chest with surprising strength. Yet her small hand emerged from the cloak, reaching toward the man in the corner. "No," Kelly whispered. "We're not." The man stood, and every wolf in the tavern went still. The pressure hit Kelly like a physical force, alpha compulsion, pure and undeniable. It radiated from him in waves, filling the space, demanding submission. Half the wolves in the room dropped their eyes immediately. The other half held on through sheer force of will, but even they looked uncomfortable. Kelly locked her knees and held her ground. The compulsion pressed against her chest, her shoulders, trying to make her bow. But the blood bond flared in response, pushing back with a strength that surprised her. The man's eyebrows rose slightly. Then he walked toward her. Every step was measured, controlled. He moved like someone who'd spent his entire life being the most dangerous thing in any room and had stopped needing to prove it. When he stopped in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off him, Kelly had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "You're carrying powerful cargo, little wolf," he said. His voice was deep, quiet, pitched for her ears only. "You can't have it." "I don't want to take it." He smiled, and it transformed his face from threatening to something else entirely. "I want to thank you." Kelly's grip tightened on her knife. "For what?" "For keeping her alive." His eyes dropped to the bulge under her cloak. "For protecting her when no one else could. For running yourself into the ground rather than give her up." He met her gaze again. "I've been looking for you for 6 months, Kelly Villanueva, and I'm very glad I finally found you." Her blood went cold. "How do you know my name?" "Because I know everything about the wolves who swore to kill my niece." He reached up slowly, giving her time to react, and pulled back his collar to reveal a tattoo on his neck, the royal crest, and marked in gold ink that seemed to glow in the firelight. My name is Clayton Mendez, and that baby you're protecting is my brother's daughter." The tavern had gone completely silent. Everyone was watching now, not even pretending otherwise. Kelly stared at the tattoo, then at his face. The gold eyes, the strong jaw, the way he held himself with absolute certainty. "You're the prince," she said slowly. "I am." "Prove it." Clayton's smile widened. "Smart. Trust no one." As even someone claiming royal blood, he gestured to the baby. "May I?" "No." "Fair enough." Instead, he pulled something from his pocket, a small medallion on a chain, the royal crest again, but this time carved from what looked like moonstone. "This was my brother's. He gave it to his mate on their bonding day." He held it out. "The baby will recognize it. Royal children are born knowing their family's scent, their bloodline's magic. If I'm lying, she won't react." Kelly looked at the medallion, and then at the baby. The infant was staring at it with those golden eyes, completely focused. "Fine." Kelly pulled the baby out from under her cloak, but kept her held tight. "But if this is a trick?" "It's not." Clayton held out the medallion. The baby's hand reached for it immediately, fingers closing around the chain. And the moment she touched it, she started glowing. Golden light pulsed from her skin, bright enough that Kelly had to squint. The medallion responded, glowing in harmony with the baby's light. And in that illumination, Kelly could see the resemblance clearly, the shape of the baby's eyes, the line of her jaw. She looked like Clayton, like family. The baby made a sound, not crying, but something joyful. She pulled the medallion to her chest and held on, still glowing, and looked up at Clayton with an expression of pure recognition. "Hello, little one," Clayton said softly. His voice had gone thick. "I've been looking for you for a very long time." The baby reached for him with her free hand. Kelly took a step back. "No. Kelly, I don't care if you're the prince. I don't care if you're her uncle. I made a promise to protect her." Kelly's voice was hard. "And I've seen what happens when I trust the wrong people." Clayton studied her for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the tavern. He knelt, a prince, an alpha of royal blood, and kneeling in front of a nobody tracker from a nothing pack. "You're right not to trust me," he said quietly. "You don't know me, and you've been betrayed by everyone you did know." He looked up at her, and there was no pride in his expression, no arrogance, just exhaustion and grief. "But I need you to understand something. That baby is the last piece of my brother I have left. His mate is dead. He's in a magical coma that no healer can break. And his daughter, the heir to our entire kingdom, has been missing for 6 months while I've torn apart half the territories looking for her." He paused, and Kelly saw his hands shake slightly before he clenched them into fists. "So when I say I want to thank you," Clayton continued, "I mean it. You saved her life. You protected her when trained guards failed. You ran yourself into the ground to keep her safe." His voice cracked. "You did what I couldn't. And I will spend the rest of my life being grateful for that." Kelly stared at him, at the raw emotion on his face, at the way he knelt before her without shame, without calculation. The baby squirmed in her arms, still reaching for Clayton. "How do I know this isn't an act?" Kelly asked quietly. "How do I know you won't take her and kill me to eliminate witnesses?" "You don't," Clayton spread his hands. "I can give you my word, my oath, my blood if you want it. But none of that means anything if you don't believe it." He met her eyes. "So I'll make you a deal instead. Come with me to the meeting point I've established for refugees and loyalists. It's protected, warded, safe. Spend 1 day there, meet the people who've been helping me search. See for yourself that I'm telling the truth. And if I decide you're not, then you take her and leave. I won't stop you." Clayton's expression was utterly serious. "I want to protect my niece, Kelly." "Oh, but I won't do it by becoming the monster who hunts you. You've earned better than that." The silence stretched. Around them, the tavern held its breath. Kelly looked down at the baby. The infant was still glowing faintly, still holding the medallion, but her eyes were on Kelly's face now, watching, waiting. "Trust him," those golden eyes seemed to say. He's pack. One day, Kelly said finally, and I keep her with me the entire time. She doesn't leave my sight. Agreed. Clayton stood slowly. And in return, I'll have my healer treat that infection in your side before it kills you. How did you— You're favoring your left side. Your scent carries fever, and you're standing like someone holding themselves together through sheer stubbornness. Clayton's expression was grim. You need medical attention, Kelly. Soon. She wanted to argue, but the wound had been getting worse, and she knew it. Another day, maybe two, and the infection would spread beyond what herbs and willpower could fix. Fine. Kelly adjusted her grip on the baby. But if anyone tries to take her from me, they'll have to go through me first. Clayton's voice carried absolute authority. And I promise you they won't survive the attempt. The baby chose that moment to yawn, completely unbothered by the tension, and snuggled against Kelly's chest with the medallion still clutched in her tiny fist. She likes you, Clayton observed. Yeah, well, the feeling's mutual. Kelly looked at him. When do we leave? Now. My people are camped a few miles north. We can reach them before dawn. He gestured to the bartender, who'd been watching everything with wide eyes. I'll pay for her supplies, and compensation for the disruption. He pulled out a purse that jingled with serious coin. The bartender's eyes went wider. As Clayton settled the bill, while one of the wolves at a nearby table leaned toward his companion and whispered something. Kelly's enhanced hearing caught it clearly. That's the baby? The heir everyone's looking for? Must be. Did you see how she glowed? We should report this. There's a bounty. Kelly's hand moved to her knife. Clayton's head turned, and the look he gave those wolves could have frozen fire. If anyone in this tavern speaks of what they saw tonight, he said, and his voice cutting through the space like a blade, I will find them, and I will make them wish they'd never learned to speak at all. The alpha compulsion rolled off him in waves. Are we clear? Every head nodded. Some wolves couldn't even manage that. They just dropped their eyes and submitted. Good. Clayton turned back to Kelly and gestured toward the door. Shall we? They left the tavern together, stepping out into cold night air. The baby immediately started glowing brighter, and as though responding to the moonlight. She does that a lot? Clayton asked, studying his niece with fascination. Constantly. It's exhausting. Kelly started walking in the direction Clayton indicated. She also keeps us warm, heals my injuries, and threw one of my former packmates across a ravine with her mind. Clayton stopped walking. She what? You heard me? She's 6 months old. I'm aware. Kelly kept moving. Your brother's daughter is apparently part baby, part magic weapon. You're welcome. Clayton caught up to her, and she could feel his stare. The royal bloodline has always carried power, but this is something else. Her mother did something, Kelly said quietly, right before she died. The midwife said the queen cast a spell, transferred her power to the baby. She looked down at the glowing infant. I think she knew she was going to die, and she wanted to make sure her daughter could survive without her. Clayton was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was rough. Alicia was the most powerful seer in 3 generations. She could see possible futures, probable outcomes. If she knew— He stopped. She knew, and she still couldn't save herself. But she saved her daughter. Kelly shifted the baby to her other arm. That counts for something. It counts for everything. They walked in silence for a while, following a narrow trail through the forest. Kelly kept expecting an ambush. Kept her senses alert for any sign of pursuit. But the forest was quiet except for their footsteps and the baby's occasional coos. Can I ask you something? Clayton said finally. Depends on the question. Why did you do it? 6 months ago when you found her. Why hide her instead of completing the mission? Kelly thought about the midwife's dying words, about the blood bond snapping into place, about a promise she'd made and then forgotten but never truly broken. Because looking at her, Kelly said slowly, I knew that killing her would make me something I didn't want to be, something I couldn't come back from. She met Clayton's eyes. I'd rather be a traitor to my pack than a monster to myself. Clayton smiled, a real smile, warm and genuine. You know what that makes you? Unemployed? A hero. Kelly snorted. Heroes don't end up half dead in a river with a glowing baby and a pack of murderers on their trail. The good ones do. Clayton's expression turned serious. When this is over, when my niece is safe and my brother wakes up, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did. The whole kingdom will know the name Kelly Villanueva. Please don't. I'm trying to stay alive, not become famous. Too late. You're already part of history. He gestured ahead, where lights were becoming visible through the trees. We're almost there, ready to meet the people who are going to help us save a kingdom? Kelly looked down at the baby. The infant was watching her with those impossibly aware golden eyes still glowing faintly in the darkness. Ready as I'll ever be, Kelly muttered. And together, they walked toward the light. Chapter 6. The Princess and the Guardian. 6 months ago, Kelly had always known she was different. Not special, not chosen, just different. It was the little things, the way she could track scents other wolves missed, the way injuries healed faster on her than they should, the dreams she'd had since childhood, fragmented visions of places she'd never been, people she'd never met, a woman with kind eyes who sang lullabies in a language Kelly didn't know. The pack healer had called it an overactive imagination. Ellen had called it a gift. Ramon had called it useful. None of them had called it what it actually was. Bloodline memory. The echo of ancestors running through her veins, trying to tell her something she wasn't ready to hear. Until the day she'd found the box in Bonnie's office. It had been an accident. Sort of. Kelly had been retrieving herbs for the healer, a routine task she'd done 100 times. But this time, when she'd reached for the dried lavender on the top shelf, her hand had knocked into something hidden behind the jars. A wooden box, small and plain, shoved far back where no one would find it unless they were looking. Kelly should have left it alone, should have replaced the herbs and walked away. Instead, she'd pulled it down and opened it. Inside were documents. Official documents, marked with royal seals and stamped with dates going back decades. Birth records, death certificates, all bloodline registries, and right on top, a file with her name on it. Kelly Villanueva. Bloodline, classified. Status, terminated. Her hands had shaken as she'd opened it. The first page was a birth record. Mother, Lady Marjorie Wilkins, royal lady-in-waiting to the former Alpha King. Father, unknown, suspected to be king himself due to genetic markers. Date of birth matched Kelly's exactly. The second page was a termination order, signed by the king's chancellor, countersigned by the king himself. Illegitimate offspring pose threat to legitimate succession. Child to be eliminated discreetly. No public record. No questions. Kelly had read it 3 times before the words made sense. She was royal blood. Illegitimate, yes, but royal nonetheless. The former Alpha King's bastard daughter, born of an affair with a woman who'd served in the palace, and she was supposed to have been killed as an infant. The third page explained why she hadn't been. A note, and handwritten, bearing the seal of the former queen herself. I cannot condone the murder of an innocent child, regardless of the circumstances of her birth. I have arranged for the baby to be placed with a remote pack, far from court politics. Let her live as a commoner. Let her be free of the burden of royal blood. But if she ever returns to the capital, if she ever learns what she is, she must be protected. She is pact to my son, whether he knows it or not. Blood recognizes blood. Below that, now another note in different handwriting. Ramon's handwriting. Useful leverage. Royal blood means royal magic. Can be bonded, controlled, used. Keep alive. Monitor closely. Await opportunity. Kelly had sat there in Bonnie's office, staring at the papers, feeling her entire life reorganize itself around this new terrible truth. She wasn't an orphan found by the pack out of kindness. She was a political tool, hidden away and saved for later use. Everything, her training, and her position as a lead tracker, the way Ramon always gave her the most dangerous missions. It had all been preparation, building her into something useful, something expendable. She'd barely made it out of the office before vomiting in the bushes. That night, she'd gone to Ellen, told her everything, shown her the documents she'd stolen. Ellen had gone pale. "This is treason, multiple kinds of treason." "I know. If Ramon finds out you know, he'll kill me. I know that too." Kelly had paced Ellen's quarters like a caged animal. "What do I do? I can't stay here. But if I run, he'll hunt me down. And if I confront him, you die." Ellen had grabbed her shoulders. "Listen to me. You can't tell anyone else. You can't let Ramon know you found this. Act normal. Be the loyal tracker he thinks you are. And I'll help you figure out how to get away safely." It had been good advice, sensible advice. Kelly had tried to follow it. And she'd returned the documents, acted normal, gone on missions without complaint. But 2 weeks later, Ramon had called her into his office with a new assignment: find and retrieve the Alpha King's missing heir. And suddenly, all those documents had made terrible sense. Ramon hadn't just been building her into a useful tool. He'd been preparing her for this exact moment. Royal blood meant she could be bonded to other royal blood, could be used to track them, find them, control them. At the memory spell Bonnie had cast after Kelly had hidden the baby, that had been Ramon's backup plan. If Kelly's conscience interfered with his conspiracy, he'd simply erase the inconvenient parts and try again. But the former queen had been right about one thing: blood recognized blood, and no amount of memory magic could fully break a bond forged in bloodline and oath. Now sitting in the forest with the baby she'd sworn to protect, had Kelly finally understood what her mother had written in that letter Catherine had mentioned. The wolf in you is not just wolf, it's something older. Royal blood, guardian blood, the kind that couldn't be suppressed or erased, only temporarily hidden. She'd been running from her heritage her entire life without even knowing it existed. But the baby, this glowing, impossible infant who'd called to her across 6 months and a memory wipe, she'd known. The magic had known. And when Kelly had spoken those binding words in the ravine, when she'd sworn herself as guardian and protector, she hadn't been creating something new. She'd been awakening something that had been waiting in her blood all along, the kind of magic that made a bastard princess into a royal guardian, the kind that couldn't be broken by lies or spells or time, the kind that would burn through her veins until her dying breath, demanding she protect what was hers. Kelly looked down at the documents she'd kept hidden in her pack, the ones she'd stolen from Bonnie's office before everything fell apart, the proof of who she really was. Then she pulled out her knife and set fire to them, watching the paper curl and blacken in the small flames. It didn't matter who her father had been, didn't matter what blood ran through her veins. What mattered was the promise she'd made. What mattered was the baby sleeping against her chest and glowing faintly with inherited power and trust. What mattered was that when given the choice between loyalty and love, between pact and purpose, between safety and sacrifice, she'd chosen right, and she'd choose right again every single time. The ashes scattered in the wind, and Kelly stood, ready to face whatever came next. Chapter 7. The Siege. The sanctuary was more fortress than camp. Kelly had expected tents and campfires, maybe a few makeshift shelters. What she found instead was a compound carved into the mountainside, protected by walls of stone and magic that hummed with power even she could feel. Guard towers stood at each corner, manned by wolves whose eyes tracked every movement with professional precision, and at the center, flying from a tall pole, was the royal crest. "Welcome to Haven," Clayton said as they approached the main gate. "It's not much, but it's kept us safe for 3 months." "Not much?" Kelly stared at the fortifications. "This is a military installation." "It needs to be. We're protecting refugees. Wolves who fled when the usurper king took power, families who refused to swear loyalty to a false throne." Clayton nodded to the guards, who opened the gates immediately. "Right now we're housing about 200 people, mostly civilians, but we have trained fighters too, people who remember what the kingdom used to be and want it back." They passed through the gates into a small courtyard. Despite the late hour, the place was bustling. Wolves moved between buildings with purpose, some carrying supplies, others standing watch. A few gathered around a large fire pit, sharing food and quiet conversation, and every single one of them stopped and stared when they saw the baby.
Is that... It can't be!
The heir? The whispers spread like wildfire. Within seconds, a crowd had begun to form. Kelly's hand moved to her knife instinctively, but Clayton raised his hand for silence. "Everyone listen," he called out, his voice carrying easily across the courtyard. "This is Kelly Villanueva. She's the guardian who's been protecting my niece for the past 6 months." He paused, letting that sink in. "She's also exhausted, injured, and has every reason not to trust any of us. So give her space. Let her breathe. And if anyone, and I mean anyone, makes her feel unsafe, they'll answer to me personally." The crowd backed off immediately, though the staring continued. A woman pushed through the crowd, older, maybe 60, with healer's marks tattooed on her wrists. "Prince Clayton, if she's injured, I should examine her immediately." "This is Flora Bailey," Clayton said to Kelly. "Best healer in 3 territories. You can trust her." Kelly looked at the woman's kind face, her professional demeanor, and felt exhaustion crash over her like a wave. The baby first. Make sure she's healthy. "Of course." Flora approached slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. "May I?" Kelly hesitated, then carefully pulled back the blanket so Flora could see the infant's face. The baby blinked up at the healer with those golden eyes, glowing faintly in the torchlight. Flora's breath caught. "By all the gods. She's manifesting already." Her hands moved over the baby without touching, reading something Kelly couldn't see. "Strong magical signature, healthy vitals, no signs of malnutrition or exposure damage, which is..." She looked at Kelly. "Impossible. A 6-month-old infant shouldn't survive a week in winter wilderness." "She's not exactly normal," Kelly said dryly. "No, she's extraordinary." Flora's expression softened. "And you've done an incredible job protecting her. But now let me protect you. That infection in your side needs immediate attention." Before Kelly could argue, Clayton gestured to a nearby building. "My quarters. It's private, secure, and Flora can work there without an audience." Kelly wanted to refuse, wanted to stay alert, stay guarded, stay ready to run, but the wound in her side was burning. Her vision kept going gray at the edges, and the baby was looking up at her with an expression that seemed to say, "It's okay. Rest. I'll keep you safe." "Fine," Kelly muttered, "but she stays with me. Wouldn't have it any other way." Clayton's quarters were simple but comfortable. A bed, a desk, a fireplace already burning. Flora immediately began laying out medical supplies while Clayton stepped outside to give them privacy. "Lie down," Flora instructed, "and let me see the wound." Kelly complied reluctantly, keeping the baby cradled in one arm while Flora examined her side. As the healer's expression grew grimmer with each passing second. "This should have killed you 3 days ago," Flora said bluntly. "The infection spread to your bloodstream. You're septic. If you were fully human, you'd be dead already." "But I'm not dead." "No, because she won't let you be." Flora nodded to the baby, who'd placed one small hand over Kelly's wound and was glowing softly. "She's channeling healing magic into you, keeping the infection from overwhelming your system. But it's taking a toll on her too. Look at her eyes." Kelly looked. The baby's golden gaze was slightly dimmed, and there were dark circles under her eyes that shouldn't exist on an infant. "She's exhausting herself keeping you alive," Flora said quietly, "which means I need to fix you, fast, before she burns through all her reserves." She pulled out a vial of something that glowed faintly blue. "This is going to hurt, a lot, but it'll clean the infection and accelerate your natural healing." "Do it." Flora poured the liquid directly into the wound. Kelly screamed. It felt like liquid fire burning through infected tissue and bad blood. Her vision went white, then red, then black. She distantly heard the baby crying, felt small hands patting her face, and then power. Golden light exploded from the baby, pouring into Kelly's body through every point of contact. It chased away the pain, burned away the infection, had knit together damaged tissue with an efficiency that was both miraculous and terrifying. When it faded, Kelly lay gasping on the bed, soaked with sweat but no longer burning with fever. The wound in her side was closed, pink with new scar tissue, but healed. Flora stared. In 20 years of healing, I've never seen anything like that. The baby had stopped glowing and was now sleeping peacefully against Kelly's chest, apparently unbothered by the massive expenditure of magic.
She does that,
Kelly managed. A lot. She's bonded to you. Bloodbound. Flora's expression was odd. That's ancient magic, the kind that hasn't been practiced in generations. Yeah, well, apparently I'm full of surprises. Kelly sat up slowly, testing her body. Everything hurt, but in a normal post-injury way, rather than the dying of infection way. Thank you. Thank her. Flora packed away her supplies. I just cleaned the wound. She's the one who healed you. She paused at the door.
Get some sleep, Kelly. You're safe here, I promise.
After Flora left, Kelly sat in silence, holding the sleeping baby, safe. When was the last time she'd felt safe? She was still trying to remember when Clayton knocked and entered, carrying a tray of food. Flora says you'll live, he said, setting the tray on the desk. Eat. You need to rebuild your strength. Kelly's stomach chose that moment to remind her she hadn't eaten a proper meal in days. She grabbed the bread and tore into it, barely tasting it in her hunger. Clayton sat across from her, waiting until she'd eaten half the plate before speaking. I need to tell you something. About your pack. Kelly's hand stilled halfway to her mouth. What about them? They've allied with Lord Guillermo Drew, the usurper king who took my brother's throne. Clayton's expression was grim. Drew has been consolidating power, eliminating anyone who might challenge his claim. When he learned the heir might be alive, and he offered a massive bounty, enough gold to set up any pack for life, your chief took the deal. I know. I figured that part out. What you don't know is that they're not the only ones hunting you. Clayton leaned forward. Drew has sent his personal guard, 20 of his best fighters, and he's hired mercenaries, human mercenaries with silver weapons and no qualms about killing wolves. Kelly set down the bread. How many? Last count? 40 wolves, 20 humans, and all converging on this region. Clayton met her eyes. They know you're heading north. They know you have the baby, and they're going to do everything in their power to take her from you. Then we run. Now. Before they get here. To where? Clayton's voice was gentle but firm. You're exhausted. Injured. You have an infant who glows like a beacon every time she uses magic. How long do you think you'd last? As long as I have to. I don't doubt your determination. But determination doesn't stop silver bullets. Clayton stood and walked to the window. Here's what I'm proposing. We stay, we fortify, and we make our stand. You want to fight them? I want to end this. Drew thinks he can take the throne by eliminating my niece. I'm going to show him what happens when you threaten the royal bloodline. Clayton turned back to her. But I need your help. You know your former packmates. Know how they think, how they fight. With that intelligence, so we have a chance. Kelly looked down at the sleeping baby, at the tiny face, peaceful and trusting, at the small hand still resting over her heart. If we do this, she said slowly, and we lose, we won't. But if we do, she dies, and everything I've done, everything I've sacrificed, will be for nothing. Then we won't lose. Clayton's voice was absolute certainty. I have been searching for my niece for 6 months, Kelly. I have traveled through 3 kingdoms, fought off assassins, and built this sanctuary from nothing. I did not come this far to fail now. The baby stirred in her sleep, and golden light flickered briefly across her skin. Kelly thought about running, about grabbing the baby and disappearing into the wilderness, staying 1 step ahead of her pursuers until, what? Until the baby grew up? Until Drew died of old age? Until she herself died and left this child alone? No. Running only delayed the inevitable. If they were going to survive this, truly survive, and not just escape, they needed to face the threat head on. All right, Kelly said. We fight, but on one condition. Name it. If things go wrong, if they break through, if we're overwhelmed. She pulled the baby closer. Promise me you'll get her out, even if it means leaving me behind. Promise. Clayton's expression was pained. Kelly, promise me. He was silent for a long moment, then he nodded. I promise. If it comes to that, I'll get her to safety. And no matter what it costs. Good. Kelly stood, cradling the baby. Now show me these fortifications. If we're making a stand, I want to know every weakness, every entry point, every possible way they might come at us. Clayton smiled, fierce and determined. Now you sound like a warrior. I'm a mother, Kelly corrected. There's a difference. They spent the next 2 hours walking the perimeter. Clayton showed her the guard posts, the defensive wards, the emergency escape routes. And Kelly marked everything in her memory, already planning, already strategizing. The attack came at dawn. Kelly woke to the sound of howls, dozens of them, surrounding the sanctuary from all sides. She grabbed the baby and her weapons in one smooth motion and ran outside. The courtyard was chaos, wolves scrambling for weapons, guards running to their posts, and outside the walls, visible through the gate, an army, her former pack leading the charge, and behind them, the mercenaries, as silver weapons gleaming in the first light of dawn. Clayton appeared beside her, already armed. Positions! Everyone to your posts! Civilians to the inner chambers. There's too many, Kelly said, her tactical mind counting numbers, assessing odds. We're outnumbered 3-1. Then we make every fighter count. Clayton drew his sword, a massive blade that seemed to hum with power. Stay in the inner chamber with the baby. Let us handle this. Like hell. Kelly handed the baby to Flora, and who'd appeared at her elbow. Keep her safe. Don't let anyone near her. Kelly, you can't. I didn't survive this long to hide when it matters most. Kelly drew her knives and felt something surge in her blood. The guardian bond, the royal magic, the ancient power that had been sleeping her entire life. Her eyes flashed gold, and for the first time since this began, she let herself access the full strength of what she was. Not just a tracker, not just a guardian, a royal protector, awakened and angry and absolutely done running. Let them come, she said. The first wave hit the walls like a breaking storm, and Kelly met them with teeth and claws and fury. Chapter 8. The Queen's Last Gift, 6 months ago. The night everything changed. Kelly had never been to the royal palace. But standing in its shadow now, wearing a borrowed cloak and a tracker's disguise, she felt the weight of centuries pressing down on her. This was where kings were born, where kingdoms rose and fell, where her own father, though she'd only learned that truth weeks ago, had once ruled. She'd told no one about the documents she'd found. Not even Ellen knew the full truth about Kelly's bloodline. It was safer that way. Knowledge was leverage, and in Ramon's pack, leverage got you killed. The mission briefing had been simple. Infiltrate the palace as anonymous security. The Alpha King had requested additional trackers for his mate's delivery, extra protection against potential threats. Ramon had volunteered their pack's best. What Ramon hadn't said, but Kelly had figured out by now, was that this was reconnaissance. If finding weaknesses, mapping escape routes, preparing for whatever conspiracy he and Drew had planned. She should have refused the mission, should have found a way to warn the royal family. But she'd seen an opportunity, a chance to see the palace, to maybe find answers about her mother, Lady Marjorie Wilkins, who'd served here before her disgrace and death. So she'd come. Now, standing in the servants' corridor outside the royal birthing chamber, listening to the Queen's labored breathing through the heavy doors, Kelly felt sick with guilt. She was here under false pretenses, part of a plot she didn't fully understand. And somewhere in this palace, a baby was about to be born who'd be targeted for assassination before it drew its first breath. I should leave. I should warn someone. But who? The guards were positioned by Ramon's people. The palace staff were strangers, and if she revealed what she knew, Ramon would kill her before she finished speaking, so she stood at her post and hated herself for it. The screaming started just after midnight. Not the queen's screams. Those had been constant for hours, the normal sounds of difficult labor. These were different. Guards shouting, metal clashing, the wet sounds of violence. Kelly's hand went to her weapon as the birthing chamber doors burst open. A midwife stumbled out, her robe soaked with blood that wasn't hers. And as she was holding something wrapped in white cloth, and her eyes were wild with terror. "Run!" the midwife gasped at Kelly. "Take her and run!" Behind her, through the open doors, Kelly saw carnage. The queen was on the birthing bed, her throat cut, her eyes staring at nothing. Royal guards lay dead around her. And standing over the bodies, wiping blood from his blade, was a man Kelly recognized from intelligence reports, Lord Guillermo Drew's chief enforcer. "Stop her!" the enforcer ordered, pointing at the midwife. "Kill them both." 2 guards moved to comply, guards wearing Ramon's pack insignia, her packmates, her supposed brothers and sisters, murdering a queen in childbirth. Kelly's body moved before her mind caught up. She stepped between the midwife and the approaching guards, weapons drawn. "Stand down," she said quietly. "Kelly?" One of the guards, Jimmy Frazier, who'd taught her knife fighting, looked shocked. "What are you doing?" "My job. I'm protecting the innocent." She didn't lower her weapons. "Walk away, Jimmy. Both of you. Walk away now." "Can't do that. Orders from the chief." "The chief ordered you to murder a baby?" Jimmy's expression hardened. "Not murder. Politics. The kingdom needs stronger leadership. This baby represents the old way. We're making room for the new." "By slaughtering a woman in labor?" "By doing what's necessary." Jimmy advanced, knife ready. "Last chance, Kelly. Step aside or go down with her." Behind her, the midwife was backing toward the servants' exit, the bundle clutched to her chest. Kelly could hear tiny sounds from the cloth. Crying. The baby was crying. She made her choice. Kelly attacked. Jimmy was good, but Kelly was better. She disarmed him in 3 moves and put him down with a knife to the shoulder, painful but not fatal. The second guard lasted longer, but not much. Kelly fought with a clarity she'd never felt before, every movement precise, every strike calculated. The guardian magic was waking up. She didn't understand it yet, but she felt it surging through her veins, making her faster, stronger, more than she'd been. Royal blood protecting royal blood. When both guards were down, Kelly grabbed the midwife's arm. "This way, now!" They ran, through servants' corridors, down hidden staircases. The midwife was older, slower, but she kept pace through sheer determination. Behind them, shouts erupted. Want more guards, more pursuit. They burst out into the palace gardens, and Kelly realized her mistake. They were surrounded. Drew's men on one side, Ramon's pack on the other, nowhere to run. The midwife pressed the bundle into Kelly's arms. "Please," she gasped, "I don't know who you are, but my magic knows yours." Her hands were shaking, covered in the queen's blood. "You're packed to her, bloodbound. I can feel it. I'm nobody. You're hers." The midwife's eyes were fever bright. "Promise me you'll protect her. Promise me." The guards were closing in, maybe 20 seconds before they reached striking distance. Kelly looked down at the bundle. The cloth fell back slightly, revealing a tiny face. Dark hair, eyes that hadn't opened yet, a crescent moon birthmark on her chest. And something in Kelly's blood recognized her. "This is my pack. This is my blood. This is mine to protect." "I promise," Kelly said. The midwife smiled through tears. And then she grabbed Kelly's hand and sliced both their palms with a hidden blade, pressing their bleeding hands together. "By blood spilled and blood shared," the midwife began, and Kelly heard herself speaking in unison, the words rising from somewhere ancient. "I bind myself to this child. Her life is my purpose. Her safety is my oath. Until death or release, I am hers, and she is mine. power detonated. Golden light exploded from the baby, from Kelly, from the point where their blood met. It slammed through Kelly's body like lightning, carving channels of magic into her bones, her muscles, her very soul. The bond snapped into place. Guardian, protector, forever. The baby's eyes opened. Gold, burning gold, looking directly at Kelly with impossible awareness. And then the baby spoke. Not words, but a projection of feeling, of knowledge, of her mother's dying wish. The queen knew. She foresaw this moment. Foresaw you. And she transferred her power to me before she died so I could survive, so I could choose my own guardian. And I choose you. Kelly staggered under the weight of understanding. The queen had been a seer, had known her own death was coming, had prepared for it, had chosen Kelly somehow across bloodlines and probability to be her daughter's protector. "Go!" the midwife screamed and shoved Kelly toward the garden wall. "I'll hold them off. Take her to the forbidden zone. And the old magic will hide her. Only you can enter now. The bond will make sure of it." "I can't leave you." "You can, and you will." The midwife turned to face the approaching guards, and her hands began to glow with magic. "I am Sora, midwife to queens and protector of innocence, and I will die before I let you touch this child." She unleashed her power. Guards went flying. Magic crackled through the garden like bottled lightning, and in the chaos, Kelly ran. She ran through the palace grounds as the baby clutched against her chest, ran through the gates and into the forest beyond, ran until her lungs burned and her legs threatened to give out. Behind her she heard explosions, screams, then terrible silence. Sora was dead. Kelly knew it with certainty, dead buying time for a stranger and a baby she'd delivered minutes ago. The baby made a soft sound against her chest. "I know," Kelly whispered, still running. "I know. She gave everything for you." I won't let it be for nothing." She ran through the night, using every tracking skill she possessed to lose her pursuers. And as dawn broke gray and cold, she reached the boundary of the forbidden zone. The magic recognized her immediately. The bond hummed in her blood, and the ancient wards parted like a curtain. Kelly crossed into forbidden territory and didn't look back. She found the cave system within hours. Guided by instinct, she didn't question. The baby had been quiet the entire time, those golden eyes tracking everything, absorbing everything. "You understand, don't you?" Kelly said as she prepared the sanctuary. "You know what's happening." The baby's hand found hers and squeezed. Kelly spent the next several hours carving protection wards, drawing symbols she shouldn't know how to draw, speaking spells in a language that came from her blood rather than her education. The guardian magic guided every stroke, every word. When it was done, the cave was a fortress, as impenetrable, except to Kelly herself. She placed the baby in the center of the platform, wrapped in enchanted cloth that would keep her warm and safe and hidden from magical detection. "I have to go back," Kelly told her. "If I disappear, they'll hunt me forever. Hunt you forever. But if I pretend to be loyal, if I let them think you died?" She touched the tiny face. "I can protect you better from the inside. Do you understand?" The baby's eyes were solemn, understanding. When the time is right, I'll come back. The magic will call me. I'll remember." Kelly pressed her forehead against the infant's. "And until then, you stay hidden, you stay safe, and you wait for me." She carved the final seal, the one that would make her the only person who could enter the sanctuary, the one that would tie her life to the baby's protection, the one that would make her forget, so her memories couldn't betray them both. And Kelly cut her palm one last time and pressed it to the stone. "I'll come back," she promised. "I swear on my blood, on my life, on everything I am. I will come back for you." The baby's eyes glowed bright as stars, and then Kelly spoke the words that would seal the sanctuary and wipe her own memory clean. "Until the blood calls, let the mind sleep. Let the truth hide in shadow. Let the guardian forget so the heir can survive. Power crashed through her. White light, blinding pain, and everything she knew about the baby, about the queen, about the conspiracy, and the promise and the bond, all of it sank beneath layers of magical fog. The last thing Kelly remembered before the darkness took her was golden eyes watching her with infinite trust. I choose you. I will always choose you. Come back to me. Then nothing. She woke 3 days later in Bonnie's healing quarters with no memory of what she'd done. Ramon told her the mission had failed, and told her the queen and baby had died before they could be rescued. And Kelly believed him. For 6 months she believed him. Until the blood magic grew too strong to suppress. Until the bond she'd forged refused to stay buried. Until dreams of golden eyes and desperate crying pulled her back to a promise she didn't remember making. But her blood remembered. Her magic remembered. And the baby, waiting in her sanctuary, protected by power older than kingdoms, she remembered too. And she'd been waiting for her guardian to come home. And when Kelly finally found her, finally held her again, the bond had roared back to life with a force that shattered every spell Ramon and Bonnie had woven. Because some promises couldn't be broken, some bonds couldn't be severed, some love couldn't be erased, not by magic, not by time, not by anything. Kelly had made a choice 6 months ago to save an innocent life, and that choice had saved them both. Chapter 9. The Coronation. The battle had been raging for 3 hours. Kelly crouched behind the eastern wall, breathing hard, her knives slick with blood that wasn't all hers. Around her, Haven's defenders fought with desperate determination, but the numbers were wrong. For every enemy they put down, 2 more seemed to appear. Ramon's voice carried over the chaos. "Surrender the heir! Give us the baby, and we let the rest of you live!" "Like hell," Kelly muttered. "I'm checking her remaining weapons." 2 knives, 1 dagger. The wolfsbane pouch Catherine had given her, still tucked in her belt. Not enough. Not nearly enough. A wolf crashed through the barricade to her left. One of the mercenaries, shifted and feral. Kelly met him head-on, using his momentum against him, driving her knife up under his ribs. He went down hard. She didn't have time to catch her breath before the next one came. This was how it had been since dawn. Wave after wave of attackers, testing their defenses, looking for weaknesses. Drew's forces were professional, coordinated, and utterly ruthless. And they were winning. Kelly fought her way back toward the inner chambers, where Flora had barricaded herself with the baby and a dozen civilians. She had to check on them, had to make sure. An explosion rocked the western wall. Stone and dust flew everywhere. Through the smoke, Kelly saw armored figures pouring through the breach. Drew's personal guard, and 20 elite fighters in silver-plated armor, carrying weapons designed specifically to kill wolves. "West wall down!" someone screamed. "Fall back! Fall back!" Clayton appeared through the chaos, his sword red to the hilt, his face grim. "They're through! We can't hold! Where's the baby?" "Still in the inner chamber, but they're heading straight for it." Clayton grabbed her shoulder. "Kelly, the escape tunnel. You need to take her and run. Now. Not without you. I'll buy you time. I said not without you." Kelly's eyes flashed gold. "We fight together, or we die together. Those are the options." Clayton stared at her for a moment, then smiled, fierce and proud. "Then let's make them regret ever coming here." They fought their way toward the inner chamber, back to back, cutting through enemies with brutal efficiency. Kelly had stopped thinking, stopped feeling anything but the guardian bond burning in her chest. Driving her forward, protect her, get to her, protect her. They reached the chamber doors just as Drew's guards broke through from the other side. The room was carnage. Flora stood over the baby's cradle, bleeding from multiple wounds but still fighting. Around her, the civilians who'd stayed to defend had formed a desperate circle, and in the center, the baby was screaming. Not crying, screaming. A sound of pure power and fury that made every wolf in the room stagger. "Then Kelly!" Flora's voice was desperate. "I can't calm her down. She won't stop!" Kelly shoved past the guards and grabbed the baby, pulling her against her chest. The infant's eyes were blazing gold, her small body radiating heat and power. The moment Kelly touched her, the screaming stopped. The baby's hand found Kelly's face, and through the bond, She felt it. Terror, rage, and underneath it all, a desperate plea. Save them. Save everyone. Use me. Use my power. No, Kelly whispered. You're just a baby. I can't. The baby's eyes burned brighter. And Kelly understood. This wasn't just a child. This was the heir to a magical bloodline that stretched back centuries. The daughter of the most powerful seer in generations, who'd transferred all her power into her child before dying. She had magic older and stronger than anything in this room, and she was offering it to Kelly. All of it. If I do this, Kelly said quietly, it might kill you. The baby's expression was clear. Better to die fighting than live as a slave. Kelly looked at Clayton, at Flora, at the exhausted defenders barely holding the line, at Ramon's forces closing in, ready to take everything. She made her choice. Kelly pressed her forehead against the baby's and opened herself completely to the bond. Power flooded in, not a trickle, not a stream, a tidal wave of pure magical energy more than any one person should be able to hold. It burned through her veins, carved channels of light into her bones, transformed her into something more than wolf, more than human, a guardian in truth, ancient and terrible and absolutely unstoppable. Kelly's eyes blazed pure gold. When she stood, power radiated from her in visible waves, pushing back everyone in the room, friend and enemy alike. Get everyone to the escape tunnel, she told Clayton, her voice layered with harmonics that weren't entirely her own. Now! Kelly. You can't. I said go! The alpha compulsion in her voice was irresistible. Clayton staggered back, then grabbed Flora and started herding people toward the tunnel entrance. The baby stayed in Kelly's arms, glowing bright as a star, her power still pouring into the bond. Ramon's forces burst through the door. Kelly met them with fire and fury. She moved like lightning, like a storm given form. Every strike was precise, devastating, and backed by centuries of guardian magic that had been sleeping in her blood. Drew's elite guards in their silver armor went down like wheat before a scythe. But there were too many. Even with the baby's power, even with the guardian bond burning at full strength, Kelly couldn't hold them all. A blade got through her defenses, slashing across her ribs. Another caught her shoulder. She went down to one knee, still holding the baby, still fighting. Ramon pushed through his forces, his face twisted with rage. You should have stayed loyal, Kelly. Should have known your place. My place? Kelly gasped, is protecting her, not serving you. Then you'll die with her. Ramon drew his weapon, a massive sword, silver-edged and enchanted. And I'll take my payment from Drew over your corpse. He raised the blade. The door behind him exploded inward. A wolf burst through, massive, black-furred, with eyes that burned the same gold as the baby's. He moved with lethal grace. And the alpha compulsion that rolled off him made Ramon's look like a gentle suggestion. This was power on a different scale entirely. Primal, royal, absolute. The wolf tore through Ramon's forces like they were nothing. Guards flew, mercenaries scattered, and Ramon himself went pale, stumbling backward. That's not possible, he breathed. The Alpha King is in a coma. He can't... The wolf shifted. The transformation was fluid, powerful, and when it completed, a man stood where the wolf had been. A tall, broad-shouldered, with black hair and golden eyes, and a presence that filled the room. He wore simple clothes, but on his neck was a tattoo identical to Clayton's, the royal crest, burning with power. "Hello, brother," Clayton said from the tunnel entrance, his voice thick with emotion. "Welcome back." The Alpha King, Rodolfo Snow, Kelly realized with shock, looked around the room. His gaze took in the carnage, the exhausted defenders, Clayton standing guard at the tunnel. And then his eyes found the baby in Kelly's arms, his daughter. The transformation in his expression was immediate. The cold fury melted into something raw and broken, and overwhelmingly tender. "Arya," he breathed. He took one step toward them, then another. "My daughter, my Arya." The baby, Arya finally named, made a joyful sound and reached for him. Rodolfo crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees in front of Kelly. His hands were shaking as he reached toward his daughter, and then hesitated, looking at Kelly for permission. "She's yours," Kelly said quietly. "She's always been yours." Rodolfo took Arya gently, reverently, and the baby grabbed his face with both hands and laughed. The sound was pure joy, pure recognition. Father and daughter, reunited at last. Golden light pulsed between them, the royal bloodline recognizing itself, singing in harmony. "You're awake," Clayton said, moving closer. "How?" "The healer said the poison was too strong. That you'd never—" "I felt her," Rodolfo said, his voice rough with disuse. Through the bloodline bond, felt her fear, her power. "It called me back." His eyes found Kelly's. You're the one who saved her." "I'm the one who promised to protect her," Kelly corrected. "Her mother made me swear it." Something flickered across Rodolfo's face. Grief, recognition, gratitude all at once. "Alicia chose you. She saw you in her visions. Told me." He stopped, swallowed hard. "Oh, she told me if anything happened to her, a guardian would come. Someone with royal blood who didn't know it yet. Someone strong enough to protect our daughter when I couldn't." He stood, still holding Arya, and looked at Ramon, who'd been slowly backing toward the exit. "You," Rodolfo said quietly, "conspired to murder my mate and child. Sold your loyalty to a usurper for gold. And you hunted the woman who saved my daughter across 6 months and 3 territories." Ramon was pale. Your Majesty, I can't explain." "There is no explanation." Rodolfo's voice was absolute ice. "There is only judgment." The compulsion that rolled out from him dropped every wolf in the room to their knees, including Ramon, who fought it with everything he had and failed utterly. "I strip you of your title," Rodolfo declared. "I strip you of your pact. I strip you of your name." His eyes blazed. "You are nothing. You have nothing. And if you ever come within 100 miles of my daughter again, I will end you personally. Please, get out." Ramon fled, along with what remained of his forces. Drew's mercenaries, seeing their employer's ally broken and their primary target protected by a king they'd thought was comatose, didn't wait for a dismissal. They ran. Within minutes, the courtyard was empty except for Haven's defenders. Rodolfo turned to Clayton. "Gather the civilians. We're going home." "Home?" Clayton looked shocked. I mean I'm taking back my throne. Drew will answer for what he's done. The kingdom will be restored." Rodolfo looked down at Arya, who was playing with his hair, completely unconcerned by the violence around her. "And my daughter will grow up knowing she's loved, protected, and heir to a kingdom worth ruling." He turned to Kelly, who was still on her knees, exhausted beyond measure. "You," he said softly. He knelt again, bringing himself to her level. "Kelly Villanueva, guardian, protector." He shifted Arya slightly, freeing one hand, and offered it to her. "Come with us. Be what you were meant to be. My daughter's guardian, her protector, part of our family." Kelly stared at his offered hand. "I'm nobody. Illegitimate royal blood from a father who ordered me killed as an infant. I don't belong in a palace. You belong wherever my daughter needs you to be." Rodolfo's expression was sincere. "And she needs you. And I can feel it through the bond. She's chosen you as permanently as you chose her." Arya reached for Kelly, making an insistent sound. Kelly took the tiny hand and felt the bond pulse warm and certain between them. "One condition," she said. "Name it." "Ellen, my former packmate who helped me escape. She's probably in hiding, but if you can find her, give her sanctuary. She saved us both." "Done." Rodolfo stood and offered his hand again. "Anything else?" Kelly thought about Catherine, who'd helped her when she had no reason to. About Sora, who'd died buying time for a stranger and a baby. About all the people who'd risked everything so this child could live. "Make it worth it," she said quietly. "Their sacrifices. Make the kingdom worth what they gave." Rodolfo's expression was solemn. "I swear it. On my life, on my throne, on my daughter's future. I will build a kingdom worthy of what they gave." He helped Kelly to her feet. Arya, held between them, has grabbed both their hands and pulled them together, laughing. "She approves," Clayton said, approaching with a smile. "Which means we're officially a very strange family." "The best families are," Flora added, limping over with medical supplies. "Now everyone hold still while I make sure you're not bleeding to death." 3 weeks later, the throne room was packed. Kelly stood near the back, wearing formal clothes that still felt foreign, and watched as Rodolfo addressed his reclaimed kingdom. Drew had fled when the Alpha King returned, taking his conspirators with him. A manhunt was underway, but for now, the throne was secure. "My daughter lives," Rodolfo announced to the assembled nobles and commoners. "Princess Arya Snow, heir to the throne, saved by a guardian who gave everything to protect her." He gestured, and Kelly found herself being pulled forward by guards who were far gentler than necessary. "Kelly Villanueva," Rodolfo continued, "I name you Royal Guardian, protector of the heir, and I grant you lands, title, and a place in this court for as long as you wish it." The crowd erupted in applause. Kelly looked at Arya, who was being held by Flora in the front row. The baby was watching her with those golden eyes, glowing faintly with happiness. "I don't want lands or titles," Kelly said quietly, loud enough for only Rodolfo to hear. "I just want to keep her safe." "Then do that," Rodolfo replied. Everything else is just decoration." After the ceremony, Kelly found Clayton on one of the palace balconies, looking out over the city. "Quite a view," she said. "Quite a day." He glanced at her. "How are you holding up?" "Ask me when I'm not exhausted." Kelly leaned against the railing. "Thank you for believing me, for helping us. Thank you for saving my niece." Clayton smiled. "And for giving me hope that there are still people in this world worth fighting for." A comfortable silence settled between them. "So," Clayton said eventually, "the king offered you a formal position. Are you taking it?" "I made a promise to protect Arya. That doesn't change whether I have a title or not." "That's not what I asked." Kelly looked at him, at his golden eyes and steady presence. "Why do you care?" "Because I've spent 6 months looking for my niece, and in that time, I forgot what it felt like to find something." Clayton's expression was carefully neutral. "Or someone." Kelly's heart did something complicated. "We barely know each other. We fought a battle together. We survived impossible odds. We saved a kingdom." He smiled. "Seems like a good start." Before Kelly could respond, Arya started crying from inside the palace. Both of them moved immediately, drawn by different bonds but the same purpose. They found the baby with Flora, who was trying unsuccessfully to calm her. "She wants you," Flora said, handing Arya to Kelly. "Won't settle for anyone else." The moment Kelly took her, Arya stopped crying and grabbed her face with both hands, babbling something that sounded suspiciously like approval. "You're very demanding, you know that?" Kelly told her. Arya responded by pulling Kelly's hair. "She's perfect," Clayton said, watching them both with an expression Kelly couldn't quite read. And standing there, in a palace that still felt foreign, holding a baby who'd chosen her, surrounded by people who'd become family, Kelly finally understood what the Queen had known. Some things were worth saving, worth sacrificing for, worth believing in. A kingdom could be rebuilt. A throne could be reclaimed. But a child's life, a child's future, a child's chance to grow up loved and protected, that was everything. Kelly had been banished for saving a lost baby. She'd lost her pack, her home, her entire life. And she'd do it again in a heartbeat, because Arya was hers, and she was Arya's, guardian and protected, family forever. Epilogue. 5 years later, Princess Arya stood in the palace gardens, her dark hair pulled into braids, her golden eyes bright with mischief. "Again!" she demanded, holding up her hands. Kelly, older and scarred but smiling, shifted into her wolf form. The silver fur caught the sunlight, and Arya squealed with delight before shifting herself. A small black wolf pup, powerful and fast. They chased each other through the gardens, while Clayton and Rodolfo watched from the terrace. She's growing up too fast, Rodolfo said quietly. She's growing up safe, Clayton corrected. Because of Kelly. Because of all of us. In the distance, Arya tackled Kelly, and both of them shifted back to human, laughing. Love you, Arya said, hugging Kelly tight. Love you too, little one, Kelly replied. Now come on, your tutors are waiting. Do I have to? Yes. But, princess or not, you're learning mathematics. No arguments. Arya groaned but followed obediently, had her small hand in Kelly's. And watching them go, Rodolfo smiled. His daughter was alive, his kingdom was healing, and the woman who'd saved everything had finally found the family she deserved. It was enough. It was everything.